What's up, San Antonio? What's up, South Texas? Hope everyone's bundled up and ready to go for an hour of sports talk. My name's Mike Jimenez, joined by Joe Garcia. I understand that it's freaking cold in the Alamo City right now. We're part of the Alamo City Sports Cast coming at you typically from West San Antonio and West Bexar County. But right now, if you take a look behind me, I'm nowhere near the Alamo City. I'm in La Habra Heights, California, just outside of LA. So it's not 19 degrees over here. It's 55. It's going to get into the 60s today. But Joe, how are things in San Antonio? Do you miss me?
Yeah, things in San Antonio are cold as shit, dude. And right now, I'm not missing anybody, dude. I felt sick. So full disclosure, I went to the urgent care right around where I live, right here off of Petrenko, where the Dunkin' Donuts is at. You know where that's at.
Yeah.
And I tested positive for COVID. So I'm going to have to miss the next 2 days of work. And I feel like absolute shit, dude.
And
Fucking
you know what? I feel bad for you, man. I feel bad for you. You have COVID. I spent time with you doing the show the other day. My last client that I saw for my financial practice called me yesterday and said that he had COVID.
jeez.
So I think it's just going around. And I woke up this morning just feeling this congestion. Just felt like just something just sat on my chest. I just feel a little bit off today. But
Hopefully
it's
you
funny
don't have
because
COVID, Mike.
yeah, I got a feeling that we do, man. Let's just fast up and say it. Will I be tested? No, not anymore, man. Back in the day, of course I would have, but now kind of just indifferent about it all. But man, I'm over here attending family business again. I'm in Los Angeles. By the way, my cousin has a beautiful home
Yeah,
over
it
here in
looks
La
really
Habra
nice,
Heights.
dude.
Got a swimming pool in the back. I was in the hot tub last night, and it was very cool. It's getting kind of chilly over here. It's getting into like the low 40s, upper 30s, which for California is pretty freaking cold.
Yeah.
But the hot tub was just nice. Hey, again, we're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Twitter as well. You can be part of the show by being part of our YouTube stream. You can leave a comment. We'd be happy to read them in real time. Lots of them already coming in. Chris Gonzalez comes out to us and says in Dak's voice, "Let's go home. Here we go. Let's go home." Jesus wants to wish us everybody happy morning, saying everyone stay warm. Except for me, I can stay cold, he says. David reaches out to us, says that it was 17 degrees where he was this morning, and others are reaching out saying prayers up and whatnot for
F the
all
Cowboys.
for the Cowboys and whatnot. So, but we have a lot to get into. We're going to dissect what happened to the Cowboys. Who's at fault? Where do the Cowboys go from here? We'll talk more about the NFL playoffs. We're down to 8 teams. We've seen the Detroit Lions advance. Last night, Baker Mayfield advanced in the playoffs. Not for the first time, for the second time, defeating the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, no team in the NFC East is in the playoffs. But one of the teams that still remains, the Houston Texans. Do they have any chance against the Baltimore Ravens in the second round? We'll get into that. Spurs, Victor Wembanyama. I'm going to say this. He better win Rookie of the Month at the very least because he's playing extremely well right now. So we'll get into that, and then we'll see where the show takes us from here. Joe is sick. I'm sick. It is 19 degrees in San Antonio, but let's just keep warm. Let's talk sports, and let's just BS for the next hour or so.
I like Puro Pinche essays. Puro Pincho Sports, should I say. That Baker, Purdy, and Dak have the same amount of playoff wins. Ha ha
That's
ha.
right.
You know who else does? The Green Bay Packers or Love, Jordan Love here. They went in and beat Dallas, right? In Jerry World. Now the Packers have more playoff wins than Dak does in Jerry World.
Well, then the Cowboys in general do at Jerry World. They're undefeated at Jerry World.
Undefeated, bro.
That is ridiculous. And Aaron Jones turned back the clock, man. So let's get into that game because we weren't here on Monday to talk about this, but the Packers beat up on the Dallas Cowboys 48-32. It wasn't even that close.
Nope.
Okay. You take a look at it, and one of the tweets that I had earlier this past weekend was Dak Prescott is the king of meaningless stats. Because if you take a look at his stat line, you'd be thinking to yourself, well, this guy threw for, 403 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, he was balling, right? No, dude. They fell behind so quickly. They were down 20-0. And I'm thinking to myself, the Cowboys need to make a move here in the second quarter. Get this touchdown, make it 20-7, apply some pressure, and then the pick 6. And I was like, oh my God. And I'm not a Cowboy fan, right? And I'm in California. with my immediate family from San Antonio. They're Cowboy fans, but the California family that I have here hate the Cowboys. So half the room is cheering, half the room is booing. And I find it to be interesting that the Cowboys did it all over again. I tweeted a couple of days ago. Cowboys were 12-5 this year. They were 12-5 the year before. They were 12-5 the year before that. Why are Cowboy fans suddenly more amped up? Why are they more confident this year compared to years past? People were saying, well, it's because Jimenez are the 2 seed. They've got a direct path to the NFC Championship game. And it was so weird watching Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb not have a connection in that game. How was that even possible? These two have been in sync the entire season. CeeDee Lamb, with one of the best receiving seasons in NFL history, broke the record for the Cowboys record for most receptions in a year, most receiving touchdowns in a year, most yards in a year. He broke all the records that Michael Irvin had, and he looked scared. And because he looked scared, Dak looked scared. And then they couldn't get the running game on. And then one last thing before I turn to you, Joe. Was it Rex Ryan on ESPN on Get Up yesterday? Mentioned the fact that there were 56 plays against the Cowboys on the defensive side of the ball. And he said that the Cowboys had 6 defensive backs or more in all but like 4 or 5 plays. And he goes, what are you doing? They're running the ball against you. You load the box, or you stop the run and you dare Jordan Love to throw. And the Cowboys were like, no, you all can run. We'll let you run. Dude, the Packers had nearly 9 yards per play in that game. And Jordan Love looked like the veteran, not Dak Prescott. You are a lifelong Cowboy fan. Now, you warned us, Joe, that this was going to be an implosion coming. You were one of the few that didn't buy into this is our year, even though you're a diehard Cowboy fan. As you were watching this game unfold, what were your thoughts?
I was hoping the Cowboys would get absolutely embarrassed. I wanted the score to be in the 50s, 60s, and the Cowboys to only score 10 points, 7 points.
Yeah.
At this point, the Cowboys are exactly the team that everybody thought they would be. And what I mean by that is Cowboys fans kind of knew in the back of their head, if you're a true fan, that Dak was going to go ahead and shit the bed again in the biggest moment. Doesn't matter what the regular season record is. He needs to show up in the big moments.
Right.
Notoriously, when you go and you look at Dak's overall playoff record, he's only had 2 wins. It's like 2-5, something like that. And it's abysmal for what the Cowboys are paying for Dak and all the opportunities that they've given Dak Prescott. They've surrounded him with talent. They have a good O-line. He has CeeDee Lamb. He has some other weapons. And still, they can't seem to figure it out. This was an absolute ass-kicking embarrassment. And it starts not only with Dak, but you also have to go ahead and point the finger at the coaching staff. Mike McCarthy, Dan Quinn.
Yeah.
What the hell were you guys doing? You know, you can't make adjustments on the fly. That's what you do in the context of an NFL playoff game. You make adjustments and you have your players, your big-time players, go out there and play spectacular. Micah Parsons, like they were saying in the chat, didn't show up. Dak Prescott didn't show up. CeeDee Lamb, non-existent for most of the game. Finally started, I guess him and Dak started figuring things out midway through the third, in the fourth quarter, started making some plays happen, but it was too late by then. This is just an absolute embarrassment by the Dallas Cowboys. And if Jerry doesn't make some changes, meaning that maybe it'd be in the best interest of both Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys to part ways. Dak has a no trade clause in his contract. But at the end of the day, man, if he's not producing, and he knows he's not, and he even said, I sucked after the game, bro, you've been sucking for the last several seasons. It's not just one game. That's indicative of who he is. Dak is not that guy. And it's clearly evident. At some point, Jerry has to move on. Whether that means moving on from Dak and McCarthy, that's on him. But some changes need to be had. That's all I can say.
Dak Prescott is an interesting character because he's not a bad quarterback, and there are some times when he plays at a very elite level. The problem that you have with the Cowboys, it's more of a psychological thing than anything else because I mentioned to family members before the game started, you know how the Cowboys game is going to go by midway through the first quarter. If the Cowboys get punched in the face, they act like Glass Joe and they don't get back up. And you see the Packers go and do this long 5-6 minute long drive, get a touchdown, go 7-0, and then you see the Cowboys get a quick series punting the ball. And I looked at my family and I said, if this is a touchdown right here, game is over because the Cowboys do not have the ability to catch up. They are a excellent front running team. You give Dak Prescott a 10-point lead, he will turn that 10-point lead into 20 or 30. But his booty hole gets tight when you start losing. And I'm sorry, if you want to blame anybody for this, I blame Dan Quinn number one. Dan Quinn did not adjust for crap in that game. He did not adjust for the running game, and Aaron Jones was looking like Aaron Jones of 2018, 2019. He owns that building. And this is a team, this Green Bay team, that has a Jordan Love that is one of the best quarterbacks in the last 7 or 8 weeks. This isn't a surprise in the sense that, oh, he just played out of his mind for once. He's been doing this since Thanksgiving. They needed to be better prepared, and Dan Quinn was not prepared. And then what ended up happening? It started to snowball, started to go downhill. You saw Dak Prescott starting to press. CeeDee Lamb was dropping passes. Now, they weren't the greatest passes, but he was dropping passes. And when was the last time you saw CeeDee Lamb look scared on the sideline, sitting down, and Mike McCarthy going over to him to, like, console him? I was thinking to myself, oh, my God. They imploded in one quarter. And then you have that pick six to make it 26-0. And you look at those plays. Now, a lot of Cowboy fans were complaining about one of the interceptions saying, oh, well, that was pass interference. No, it wasn't. Okay, it wasn't. The DB has the ability to go after the ball too, and he has every right to go after it also. He didn't grab anybody. He went for the ball. So, interception. Then that pick six. That right there is, if you follow like Emmanuel Acho from FS1 and all that, they talk about the fact that Dak Prescott and the offense have tendencies that you can watch all their games and then you can go, they don't change anything. You know, the plays that they run in week 10 are the same that they ran in week 5, the same as they ran in week 1, and they don't change anything. So they know that the Cowboys are going to be predictable on the offensive side of the ball. It's amazing what the Cowboys were able to do, and they suckered their fans yet again into believing it. And here's the hard truth when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys right now. That Super Bowl window was this year. It is closed. There is no Super Bowl window in 2024, 25, 26. It is done. This was their chance because now they've got one of two things to do. One is, are they going to pay Dak Prescott as the highest paid player in the NFL? We saw Justin Herbert sign a deal north of $55 million. And typically what ends up happening is that when you're next, you're next. Dak has like a $59, $60 million cap hold right now. So they were to dump him. The Cowboys would be out that much money. They can restructure his deal. But the question is this, Cowboy fans. Do you want Dak Prescott to be extended? Because Dak Prescott is who he is. He is 30 years old. He has 8 seasons as a starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. He is 2-5 in the playoffs. That's a winning percentage of .286. He is who he is. And as his salary gets higher and higher, it makes it harder and harder to keep certain players because other players have already gotten paid. You know, the Trayvon Diggs of the world, the CeeDee Lambs of the world, but then there's the Micah Parsons that need to get paid. There's not enough money to go around. And I hate to say this, Cowboy fans, they may need to bite the bullet and suck next year and just lick their wounds and regroup. Maybe draft a quarterback. You know, maybe hand the ball to Trey Lance. And as David Allwater reaches out to us and says, Prescott and Romo only had 2 playoff wins. And it's amazing how with all the talent and whatnot, and the Cowboys going 13 playoffs without making the conference championship game. They have gone 28 years without winning a Super Bowl. And you see Michael Irvin just lose his mind on social media saying, it was different. We had a different mentality in the 90s. And then you see Jimmy Johnson lose his mind at halftime, which was, by the way, great theater, by the way. Great theater. I loved what Jimmy Johnson did. But that was also a time when the salary cap did not exist. Okay? Salary cap instituted. Cowboys were supportive of it. They got one more chip, and then they have sucked ass ever since. The Cowboys are just a poorly run franchise.
Yeah.
And it starts with Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones is not the owner you need because he's meddling with everything. But Dan Quinn, with the small linebackers, his wanting to play a bunch of DBs, it's a lot of what wins in the regular season, but it doesn't win in the playoffs. And the Cowboys need to hit the reset button now.
Yeah, they need to make some changes, man, because Cowboys fans are they're tired, bro. I know I'm tired. You know what? I even got an offer to join the Bills Mafia. And you know what? I'm considering joining another team, rooting for another team, because I'm tired of this bullshit already. The Cowboys haven't done anything since the 90s. Was it 92, 96, something like that?
96, yes.
It's been ridiculous, man. At some point in time, too, as fans, you got to move on from this franchise because it's a poverty-ass franchise just leading to more disappointment season after season after season. Something's got to give, and you know what that's going to probably be? I'm going to have a talk with my pops here when I get better over the COVID. And me and him are going to discuss what team we're going to root for next season, because I can tell you one thing. It's probably not going to be the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to move on from this poverty-ass franchise and root for a winner. Maybe we'll be Saints fans or Texans fans or something, but you know what? It ain't going to be Cowboy fans anymore.
Well,
I can guarantee you that.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I was talking to a good friend of mine, and she and I were going back and forth because she's a big fan of the Houston Texans. And I told her that I wanted to adopt the Texans as my Sancha team.
Yeah.
And there are rules for having a Sancha team. Okay. The rule is it has to be a team that's in a different conference than yours. So if you're a Cowboy fan and want to be part of Bills Mafia, that's a different conference, man. That's a different conference. They don't stand in the way of you making the Super Bowl. That's a different conference. Me, in the past couple of years, I'm a Saints fan. I've cheered for the Bengals because they have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and they have the LSU connection that's there. My daughter went to LSU, so my money went to LSU. So therefore, I felt like I could cheer for them. When they didn't make the playoffs this year, I said, you know what? I'm going to jump on the bandwagon. That is DeMeco Ryan and C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans. And the Houston Texans, I tweeted earlier this weekend, imagine if C.J. Stroud equals the number of playoff wins as Dak Prescott in his rookie season. C.J. Stroud is a stud. That is a very, very good player. I don't know what kind of chance they have against the Ravens because the Ravens, very good defense. It's on the road. It might be cold out there. But my goodness, they're playing with house money.
Yeah.
And I love so many different things about what happened in the playoffs this weekend. I had a back and forth with somebody over the weekend about how a lot of NFL teams have skirted around the Rooney Rule and how certain teams are finally hiring minority head coaches. And we've seen DeMeco Ryans do well. We've seen Todd Bowles with Tampa Bay do well. And it's nice to see that some of the younger guys out there, because these are young minority coaches. These are not the Romeo Cromwells of the world who are like 70 some odd years old, and they're trotting them out there to be the head coach for 5 or 6 games, So it's interesting to see. But taking a look at that game, the Houston Texans, though, they dismantled the Browns 45-14. They had those 2 pick sixes. I believe it was in the third quarter, and that game was over. And to see the crowd just animated and pumped up, so great to see. Texans advance, and they're playing the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens who should be the MVP in Lamar Jackson. But look at these teams, Joe. Look at these teams. Tampa Bay making it through. Look at Green Bay being the second youngest team in all of football make it through. Look at the Texans, youngest team in football, making it through into the playoffs. That says a lot. There's something about culture and coming together at the right time. And right now, the Ravens are favored by 9 points in Saturday's game against the Houston Texans. Kickoff at 3:30 p.m. in San Antonio on ESPN, ESPN Plus, and on ABC. Over under a 44.5, so they're not expecting much. Now, meantime, Vegas is expecting a blowout in the evening game on Saturday because the 49ers are 10-point favorites over the Green Bay Packers. The Sunday games, Lions favored by 6 over the Bucks, and the Bills favored by 2.5 over the Kansas City Chiefs. I did see a thing earlier today on Facebook. It was a meme saying that the Super Bowl that we all want to see is the Taylor Swift against Eminem Super Bowl, Kansas City against Detroit. Because did you see Eminem in the stands last night?
I did.
As they were playing Lose Yourself, and that was the night before. They were playing Lose Yourself, and the entire crowd sang it to him. He did not sing it. They sang it to him because they showed him on the Jumbotron, and he wasn't sitting in like some luxury box seat. It looked like he was just in some regular seat enjoying the game. It was great.
Yeah, man. It was great to see some of the playoff games yesterday too. You know, you had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers besting the Philadelphia Eagles. The game prior to that, what did you have? The Steelers.
That was all boring ass game.
That was a boring ass game. Steelers just couldn't compete, man.
Right.
You know, Bills just really just dispatched them handedly, man.
Baker Mayfield now has 2 playoff wins. This is the guy. I was arguing with somebody on Twitter earlier today. I don't say I was arguing, but they were going back and forth. And I made a comment that he saw where I said, Baker Mayfield has the same number of playoff wins as Dak Prescott. And they came up to me and they were like, well, you know, Dak Prescott was a 4th-round draft pick and Baker was number 1 overall. Baker Mayfield in his first 6 seasons had 8 head coaches and had a different offensive coordinator each and every year, got dumped on by Carolina, had to go follow Tom Brady, for crying out loud, who brought a Super Bowl to Tampa. And the guy is just a gamer, and you start to believe in him. And yeah, the NFC South was a crappy division and only took 9 wins to win. The Bucks and Saints were both tied at 9 and 8. Bucks had the tiebreaker, so they moved on, and now they're in the playoffs. You take a look at that. You may make fun of Baker. You may make fun of that division. But how many teams in the NFC East are still around after 1 week of the playoffs? None. But then you look at the Texans. By the way, we see Chris Bettis reaching out to us saying, with you, Mike, Texans are officially the Sancha team. I like it. Here's the thing. Who has more playoff wins? Lamar Jackson or C.J. Stroud?
I would have to say it's going to be Lamar Jackson.
They're even. Lamar only has 1.
Wow.
This is the guy that's going to win his 2nd MVP. Lamar Jackson only has 1 playoff win. And the reason why he only has 1 playoff win is because he played in the same conference as Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. It is hard to win in the NFL. Look at that conference, that divisional playoff game that we're going to have. We have the Detroit Lions going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The NFC Championship game is going to feature either Baker Mayfield or Jared Goff.
Look at what Chris Gonzalez puts. Did you know who had a huge weekend? The wife of Kyle.
Kyle yeah. His wife Kristen. Social media was going crazy with her jackets for Brittany Mahomes and Taylor Swift. It's beyond that. I saw on TikTok over the weekend. Thank you for bringing that comment in, Chris. The biggest increasing demographic in the NFL right now is women, and it's beyond Taylor Swift. It's been before that, and a lot of women are complaining about the fact that the only thing that the NFL offers is jerseys.
Yeah,
and it may have a V-neck for cleavage purposes or whatnot. It may have, but it's just a jersey, and it looks manly. It's not feminine. And you have these wives of NFL players who happen to be designers going out, and you should see some of the stuff that they're designing. It is like club wear, but
Yeah.
in a good way, hot way, sexy way. That you can wear your Cowboys gear, your Niners gear, your Packers gear, your Saints gear, and they're telling the NFL, look what we're able to do. We're
Yeah.
able to make it sexy and fun for
For
20-year-olds and 30-year-olds would want to dress up and go to the game and look good doing it.
Yeah, man. I mean, you want to see your girl out there in just a regular old t-shirt or a little v-neck, jersey. I mean, I've seen a lot of my friends that have significant others, whether it be wives or girlfriends, wearing Dallas Cowboy gear that they customize themselves,
Mm-hmm.
or they get it, made by somebody else, and it looks good. They look cute. They look good in their gear. So
Bear
I
County Social
understand.
Apparel does a better job than Spurs marketing when it comes to
Yeah,
t-shirts.
no doubt. But I understand the appeal. Women like things a little bit different. They have a different style than the men. And I think it's time that the NFL kind of gets on board and goes with some of these designers to design clothing that's tailored towards women, because that is the fastest growing demographic right now in the NFL. You got to tailor to your fan.
There was a story that I saw on CBS Morning News. They have that Sunday show, which, by the way, is one of my favorite shows. I don't see it as often as I should, but it's like feel-good stories. And they had one about this small little boutique that sold vintage Kansas City Chiefs gear outside of Kansas City. But it's like the equivalent of Bernie to San Antonio. It's like 30 miles outside of town. It's a very quaint town, very nice upper class town.
Yeah.
And they received this order for vintage jackets and whatnot. And the person who runs it, this young woman who runs the store, owns the store, thought to herself, I bet you this is Taylor Swift's people who are doing this. So what she did was, in the packaging, she decided to put on a beanie that was not ordered. All they ordered were jackets.
Yeah.
And she put a beanie in there, and she custom made it with the number 87 on the side. So you can see the beanie, and it says 87 with the Chiefs logo on it. And she said that she freaked out when she saw Taylor Swift wearing it, because it wasn't like Taylor Swift went on Amazon and bought it. It was her people who bought it. But she
Yeah.
put two and two together. Why are 5 jackets being bought that are vintage, that they want this, that, and the other? Does she put 2 and 2 together? Very, very cool thing. Women are watching sports more often. You go to Spurs games. I talk to young ladies and I ask them, hey, what's the ideal date? It's not dinner at a movie. They want to go to a Spurs game.
Yeah.
They want to go do an activity, an event.
Yeah, but they don't want to be sitting in the cheap seats. Come on. If you're going to take your girl, you're going out on a date, you're going to go see a Spurs game, sit in the lower bowl, bro. Come on.
I would say this, though. If you're upper level and you are in the bottom 7 rows, 8 rows, you might get a pass. Okay? But if you are in row L,
Section 14, that's 5 rows from the court, bro. Come on. That's where we're going to be at, Mike.
I love it, dude. You ever tell me the time I went to a Spurs game and my brother-in-law got me tickets because he worked for a Fortune 500 company here in San Antonio? And I was allowed, we got tickets to the second row.
Yeah.
And it's a TV timeout, and Monte Ellis is going off. Monte Ellis is having, he had 35, 36 points. And it's a TV timeout, and they're going to inbound the ball to him. And I started trash talking Monte Ellis.
Oh, God.
I was like, Monte, you're having a game, boy. You're having a game, baby. Having a game. 36 points. And he looks over at me and just smiles. And then I said, you've given up 60 on defense, though. Tony Parker had himself a night that night. Tony Parker had 45, a career high. Monte.
We're on the subject here of Spurs, man. Let's talk a little bit about the San Antonio Spurs game against the Atlanta Hawks, because I was busy working yesterday. Even though I was feeling like crap, I didn't know I had COVID yet until this morning. And I made it through. I powered through the day, and what I did is I went ahead and watched the game as I was working, right? And I was like, damn, the Spurs are already getting their ass handed to them this early in the game by Trae Young. And they was so bad that Coach Pop even said they said he's kind of whispering to Wemby, hey man, we're gonna go ahead and put you in the G League. Send you to the G League, we're gonna bench you because y'all are playing like absolute dog shit.
Yeah.
So he came back and he rose to the occasion. He had a better second half, 26 points, finished the game. But Wemby rose to the occasion. He knew he was playing like crap, and he just needed somebody to call him out on it. And he was saying after the game, he likes it when he's coached hard.
Right.
He's receptive to that, especially Coach Pop getting into him, laying into him and telling him, hey, man, you're playing like crap, bro. You need to wake the fuck up, And I'm glad that he's receptive to being coached that way because it's just going to make him a better player. But overall, I mean, the Spurs just have no answer for Trey. He
No, they
just
don't. And
cooks them, man.
the Spurs right now, I mean, they were down 35 points at halftime yesterday. And what we're finding about Victor Wembanyama this month, and I say this month, is that he's the truth.
He is, man.
He is the truth. He is a superstar in the making. He will be one of the 5 to 10 best players in all of the NBA within the next 2 years. Might not make the All-Star team this year, but will make it perennially, right?
Yeah.
That is the thing about it. And we know that he is a stud out there on the court. He's saying the right things. But what I think January is doing as the team is getting better or playing better, they played well against Milwaukee. They played well against Cleveland. They won a couple of games that they should have won. They were tough against Chicago, even though Wemby was not on the court. That went down to the wire. And then against Atlanta, they caught up and played better in the second half. What we're finding, though, is that there's nobody who can step up without Wemby there. When Wemby's on the court, those 24 to 26 minutes, the Spurs are an okay team. When he's not on that court, the Spurs suck. And Devin Vassell is not stepping up. Keldon Johnson tries his hardest. And there's some days where Keldon does a very good job. Other days where he disappears. The last couple of games, we needed Vassell to step up, and Vassell has played like garbage.
Yeah.
Now, who's turning it around, though, is Sohan is understanding that, hey, it's not about me. It's about complementing everything that Wemby's doing. Be his shadow. Be the Batman to his Robin.
Hey, and look at what this comment is from Chris Gonzalez. He says the first half of the game, Sohan was the only one playing. And that's the truth. He was the only guy out there wanting to play worth the damn.
And Sohan, I've been critical of Sohan for so long because they're having him do things outside of his normal skill set. And what he has been doing the last week and a half, last 2 weeks, has been ideal. And it may not show up on the box score, but what he's doing right now is ideal. He'll never be an all-star doing what he's doing right now. He'll never be a star doing what he's doing right now. He's doing dirty work. He is doing back cuts. The passing game between Sohan and Wemby has developed into something very special. So I'm excited about that. But Sohan doesn't have to be a star. Sohan has to be the 4th or 5th best player on the team, and he's getting there. He's getting a little bit better every week that goes by. His shooting has improved this year a little bit overall. So, that's that. But, man, what we're finding out, though, is that the Spurs might need to hit the reset button. We've heard Greg Popovich say earlier in the season, we're going to see what we got. But he's also talking about in the last week, Jeff Garcia from Locked On Spurs and Kent's 5. Follow him at Jeff G Spurs Zone on Twitter. Follow him on Locked On Spurs on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. Was talking about the fact that Pop is saying, yeah, right now we're gauging who's going to be here long term. And there's a lot of good out there, a lot of bad out there. Here's what I see from the Spurs right now. Zach Collins that's a bad contract now. I was so wrong about that. Malachi Branham, my son, looks like Bryn Forbes out there. He's either having a hot shooting night or he's cold and can't play defense. Sohan, finding his role. He's finding his niche in there. Vassell, my goodness, man. Cumulatively having a decent season, but when he's off, he is really off. Keldon Johnson, no one tries harder than Keldon night in, night out. He's just undersized. And he'll forever be undersized for what they're asking him to do. Then you go on to the bench. Blake Wesley's playing a little bit better. Um, I would not be surprised if the Spurs hit the hard reset because the rumors are that they're trying to get rid of Devontae Graham. They're trying to get rid of Doug McDermott. But what are you going to get for them? Are you really going to get a first-round draft pick? The Spurs have 26 second-rounders in the next 5 years. Why are we hoarding all those guys?
You got me on that one, but I can tell you one thing for sure. I don't know if the Spurs are going to get any value for Devontae Graham.
No.
The more
Doug McDermott,
likely
maybe.
scenario. Well, what I think is going to happen, the more likely scenario is that they're going to let him walk for nothing, and that's unfortunate. But at some point, you got to give the kid. You either got to give him some playing time, or you trade him. Even if it is for a second round pick or what have you, or to get rid of some cap space or what have you. Do the right thing and let the guy go play somewhere else. He's not getting any playing time. It's indicative of the minutes. The coaches have decided they don't want to go with Devontae Graham at this point in time because they want to kick the tires to see what they have in the young kids, in the younger generation of Spurs player out there. So, I mean, he's just a product of that, and it's unfortunate because you look at Devontae Graham and he could be productive if he's given minutes, if he's given opportunities out there with this current, squad because they need some veteran leadership out there on the court, and he brings that. But it's unfortunate that he doesn't get to play.
I'm looking right now at odds that are not odds, but the stat line that Chet Holmgren had. Because you and I have been talking about the rookie of the year.
Yeah.
Chet Holmgren was rookie of the month in November, rookie of the month in December. We see that Wemby is consistently putting up 20 to 26 points per game. His season-long average is just under 20. I believe it's 19.6 now. Wemby is starting to come into his own. Chet, who had a decent January up until this past weekend, has had back-to-back games of just, they lost to the Lakers last night, and Chet Holmgren, 30 minutes played, only 9 points, he had 8 rebounds and 4 assists, also had 3 blocks. The game before against Orlando had 15 points, 8 rebounds. Meantime, if you look at what Victor Wembanyama is doing, Victor Wembanyama is throwing down the last several games that he has played. Here are the points per game since December 31st. 21, 20, 27, 24, 16, 26, 26. So he has scored 20 or more in 6 of the last 7 games. Actually, 7 of the last 8 games because on December 28th, he had 30 against the Blazers. Averaging 19.6. His rebounds, by the way, because if you look at the last 4 games, 10, 12, 11, 13, his rebounds per game has now gone above 10. So he's averaging 19.6, 10 rebounds, 3 blocks, 3 assists. Wemby is making the statement that he is rookie of the year. And I think that race is getting close. If it was right now, and you had to put the vote in right now, Chet Holmgren would still win. But Wemby is starting to make this more of a conversation because Chet is playing poorly the last couple of games, and Wemby is balling out. And as people have mentioned to us, just wait till he starts playing 30 minutes. LRM says, go Spurs, fire Pop. I would say that would never happen, but we see Belichick out of a job. We see Pete Carroll out of a job. We saw Nick Saban retire. Weirder things have happened, right? David saying, trade for Trae Young. I wouldn't mind. We need a star. We need a superstar somewhere in there. And the Spurs just don't have it outside of Victor Wembanyama.
You need 3.
He's the only all-star on this team.
Yeah, you need 3 players. You need 3 good players in order to do anything in the NBA, really. You have Wembanyama, you have Devin Vassell, who is arguably one of the better players here for the San Antonio Spurs. But beyond that, you have role players. There's still a missing piece here. I think if the Spurs had another guy who could actually go out there and create shots and, be able to just score buckets, be a walking bucket, basically. Can you imagine what that would do for one Devin Vassell? That would open his game up tremendously, and it would also open up other opportunities for one Victor Wembanyama to possibly even have a better stat line than he does currently with this Spurs squad. Can you imagine only the possibilities, Mike, if the Spurs were able to get that third guy?
Yeah, you and I have said this before. It takes 2 guys to make the play-in tournament. It takes 3 guys to, make a playoff, and you need 4 guys to make a run at the playoffs. and the Spurs have one guy in Victor Wembanyama, have potentially the 3 guy in Devin Vassell, but we don't have that second best stud. We don't have it. And it's not going to be Sohan. It's not going to be Keldon. It's not going to be Devin Vassell. Those guys could go off to a good team, very much like Derek White would go. If Derek White played for the Spurs right now, he would not be as good as he is right now as he is in Boston. He just wouldn't be, right? You are better with better players oftentimes.
Same thing could be said for DeJounte Murray.
Exactly. That's a very good point.
Yep.
That's a very good point.
They want him. Spurs fans want him back, but be careful what you wish for, because if he was to come back and play with this current squad, he wouldn't be as good as he is over in Atlanta.
It's a manageable contract. It is. And it's for 4 years, so you have him on lockdown for a while. It's not the worst. The Spurs fans don't understand, by and large, how the economy works when it comes to the NBA, because they see that the Spurs gave Devin Vassell $27-28 million, and they go, "Oh my God, it's too much. That's too much." Dude, there are players in the NBA making 50.
Yep.
Okay. And Victor Wembanyama, when he becomes a free agent and the Spurs try to sign him and keep him as a supermax, might be making $75 million a year when it's all said and done.
But they're going to have to go ahead and get some other pieces to surround him, because that kid ain't going to want to stay and play for a losing team. I don't care how much he loves Coach Pop.
And Coach Pop might not even be there anymore.
Exactly.
We can only hope. And I say only hope in the coaching aspect. I do not want him to die.
No, I mean, nobody wants that for him. But
yeah,
at some point in time in the near future, you already know that he's going to hand the mantle off to somebody else. And it'd be indicative right now to the Spurs front office to go ahead and start looking to see who that next person's going to be. Even if Coach Pop wants to handpick him, he has to do it now.
You want to see something scary?
Sure. You want to see a dead body? Or you thought you were going to tell me you want to see a dead body? You're going to show me a picture of the Cowboys.
The Toronto Raptors have been losing so much since getting rid of OG Anunoby. They now have the 6th worst record in the NBA, which means that their first-round draft pick that the Spurs could potentially get is top 6 protected. So as of right now, the Spurs' odds of getting that second first-round draft pick for this upcoming draft have fallen tremendously. And right now, the odds of the Spurs, let's see here, the odds of the Spurs getting that pick, let's see here.
Pretty low.
The Spurs' odds are right around 56%.
Wow. You know one thing, man, we're going to get into probably tomorrow in our pop culture talk.
Yeah.
And I want you to do some research on this, dude, because this story really is it's funny, dude. It's amusing and it's entertaining. Look at the Miami Mall alien fiasco that's going on across.
I heard about that.
Check it out, dude. And then you know what? For your viewing pleasure, I highly recommend you go on YouTube and you watch what they were talking about on the Dan Le Batard show, because that was gold, dude. It was hilarious. It was fun. We're going to talk about that tomorrow in our pop culture talk.
So one thing I wanted to get into was, I flew out here to California right now. I'm in La Habra Heights, California, which is just outside of LA. And here for we had a passing in the family. So we're going to have a funeral tomorrow. Yeah. And so I'll be here till Thursday. And long story short, as we're flying over here from San Antonio to Los Angeles to LAX, we're on Spirit Airlines. And my family had never flown Spirit before. They gave us a upgrade to first class. Don't know why, but they did. I didn't even realize Spirit had a first class.
Yeah, they have.
But that seat was massive. So make fun of Spirit all you want, right? That seat was massive. My nephew flew United to LA. Actually, no. He flew Spirit on the way over, so he was on the same plane with us. My bad. His seat came undone on the plane.
Oh, God.
Like it literally folded over and flipped off the railing on the seat. So it was like on the ground. So Spirit is what it is, baby. But we were talking about that whole incident involving American Airlines because I'm not American Airlines, Alaska Airlines, where that
Oh yeah,
hole opened.
the window. Yeah.
Yeah. So the funny thing is that Alaska Airlines reached out to that family and offered them $1,500 in compensation. The
Only
one who was sitting next to it. On top of that, the iPhone that was sucked out of the
the plane.
window,
Yeah.
sucked out of the plane, was reportedly found, and it wasn't cracked.
Wow.
That is crazy. I'm reading that right now on Slate.com.
Oh, you know what else is crazy? Look at this comment here from Mario Cavazos. BB Rexa was on the treadmill a few days ago since Mike called her fat.
Yeah, dude.
Leave BB alone, Mike.
BB Rexa is that borderline between that girl thick and that girl fat.
No,
She
that's all
is
good,
the
bro.
border.
I'll tell you what, man. I went to this urgent care over here on Petrenko.
Yeah.
The nurse practitioner that saw me, smoking hot, bro.
Was she a
Smoking
nugget?
hot. She was more than a nugget, bro. She had the glasses on, the dark hair. She's working those scrubs, bro. That's all I
She
can
had the
say.
specs appeal, huh?
She did, man. I told my wife when I came back, she goes, "Oh, did you get seen?" I said, "I did." I said, "I'm thinking about going back." Think about going back. I might get sick again. Shit.
That is so funny.
Yeah, she tells me I'm a dumbass. She goes, "You're stupid."
It's interesting when you go to the doctor now and the doctor's younger than you or the dentist is younger than you. I had a dentist the other day that was like 26, and I'm there going, my goodness, I was in high school when you were born. So it's a little bit funny, but
Oh man, look at this. Hand over fist. You flying spirit, bro. Don't talk to me.
hey, sometimes you got to go where the deal is, man. And if you have like 8 family members going, it
Look at
gets to be kind of pricey.
Mario Cavazos. What's the address?
Yeah, send me the Addy.
Send me the Addy. Just go in there, man. The Care Now in Petrenko. They got 2. They got one that's closer to Highway 151. That's the one that I went to, man. I'm telling you, man. That lady.
I told the story to one of my female friends the other day. I was in Baton Rouge for my daughter's graduation last year. Technically it was last year, but it was last month. And we were staying at this really nice hotel called the Cook Hotel, which is on the campus of LSU. And it's really nice. And I am going back to my room downstairs. I am at the elevator, got to go upstairs, and I forgot something in my room, right? So I'm waiting for the elevator to open, and this nugget was on the other side. Complete 10, dressed in a cocktail gown. I mean, she wasn't just like in jeans and a shirt. No, she was dressed to impress. Like she was going to a wedding or whatever. She was dressed to impress. And I said, "Dear Jesus," or something like that. I said like Jesus or something like that, and it came out of my mouth like the audible gasp that I had, and I just said, "I'm so sorry. You look great," and she just smiled. But she was so hot that I could not hold the words in my mouth. I was so lame.
Oh yeah, look at this. Mario Cavazos, Rudy J, and Mike Taylor hooking up next week.
Yes, that's right.
Great.
Rudy J is going to be starting his show with Mike Taylor. I saw they dropped the promos, and obviously this was
that looked great, dude. That video was great.
This has been in the works for a while, and Rudy J is a really good friend of mine, and I love that man. I love him, but I've been talking with him in the past about getting a podcast going. That he should do the podcast world. It's funny because people give me crap about like no longer being on San Antonio Sports Star. And I'm there going, it was actually a blessing in disguise because I get to still do my podcast with you, Joe. You reached out to me, right?
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that
it's more profitable
in radio and in TV news. There are 2 types of people. You're either making all the money or you're making none of the money. And it is a financial and business decision for us to get off of the radio half the time to go do it. What happened when I got off the radio? I'll tell you what happened when I got off the radio. My business, which was the best it had ever been in 2022, skyrocketed in 2023. And now I'm in a better position financially than I've ever been in my entire life, simply because I got off the radio and I got to focus more on my business. When
Yep.
you and I do this show, it's an hour out of my time, right? Hour, maybe I drive to your place, your studio,
Yep.
takes 15 minutes. It's my lunch break, right? But when I was on the radio, 12 to 3, I'd have to get there at 11 to formulate the show. And then I would do the show from 12 to 3. And then I'd have like a meeting afterwards. And then I'd have like to shoot commercials or record commercials or whatever.
Damn.
And I was there for 4.5 hours out of the day.
It's a long time.
And for my business to still do well despite that showed how much I was working. The work-life balance is so much better now that I'm not there. And I told Rudy the other day, I said, Rudy, this is a good thing, man. You might not have the tens of thousands of listeners, but the 500 to 1,000 to 2,000 to 3,000 diehards is really all that you need to A, get your voice out there, B, be part of the equation. And if you look at it this way, look who's no longer on the air in the past year. In the last year, not even the last year, it's been the last 6 months. Mike Taylor, Rudy J, and myself.
Gone.
Now, I would never put myself in their league.
Yeah.
Okay, because Mike Taylor been doing it for 2 decades. He's the man. He's the mayor. Rudy J doing this for 2 decades as well. I would tell the story about how Rudy and I would do shows together, and I would get nervous because it's Rudy freaking J. And he loved doing shows with me, and he would always tell me that he liked, our conversations, how it felt like 15 minutes when it was 3 hours, all that stuff. But I got off the air, and I hate to say it, but my show was relatively popular too. And there's something amiss right now because sports talk radio was so much better 6 months ago than it was today. And you and I, Joe, have to make a run at it when it comes to podcasting. Rudy needs to make a run at it, and Mike Taylor needs to make a run at it as well.
Yeah.
And I think that there's power in us supporting each other as opposed to antagonizing each other.
Oh yeah, no, it's nothing but love. That's what fans don't understand. It's like it's nothing but love between us and Taylor and what Rudy J's doing over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
James Molina reaches out and says, "No Riz Mike." I'm rusty, dude. I'm rusty. Navarre reaches out and says, "Preach, brother, preach." And that's the thing about it is that look at we need to train people to do things differently. And one of the conversation pieces that I have with Mike Taylor, if a sneak peek in here, what he and I talk about sometimes, is the aging process of people who do sports talk radio in San Antonio. Whether it be me, I mean, who the youngest person was doing sports talk radio in San Antonio up until recently? It's Rudy J.
Yeah.
Rudy J is 45, 46 years old. He's a year younger than me, or we're about the same age. And he is the youngest there. So I've had conversations with these guys where we're talking about who's that 20-something-year-old? Who is that 30-something-year-old lightning rod that is going to be the next big voice in San Antonio? Because if you look at what's going on right now, and as much as I love these guys, they're all north of 50. And at some point, there needs to be a younger voice when it comes to it. And where does that younger voice come to? Is that younger voice going to go to Ticket 760? Is that younger voice going to go to San Antonio Sports Star? Is that younger voice going to go through the avenues of a podcast? Now, RJ Ochoa is going to be doing R&R in the morning with replacing Rudy J. I love his content. He does a lot of Cowboys talks and pieces and whatnot for Blogging the Boys. He is a younger guy, but he's more of an analytics guy than he is a personality guy.
Yeah.
Ruben Espinosa says Ernie Zuniga made the jump as well.
Yeah.
Do you know who else made the jump? Is Hector Ledesma.
Yeah, Hector Ledesma. And I know that Taylor has that podcast on his network there where it's Taylor, it's Gleto, and Ernie Zuniga. They call it the 3 Cents podcast. So you could check that out. Pretty good.
We don't have to be antagonistic towards each other. I want people to listen to Rudy J.
Yeah.
I want people to listen to Mike Taylor. And Rudy J show is going to be on at 11. We're doing our show at 10. We might go to 11, 11:15. But out of respect, we're going to come out, right? Because We got to let Rudy shine. Let him do his thing. He needs to get his advertisers and whatnot. And will Rudy be on our show? Maybe down the road. Will Mike be on our show? Maybe down the road. Will we be on their show? Maybe down the road. I think there's a power in the collective, and only time will tell if that collective actually transforms. But it's interesting how it's all going to develop.
Yeah.
And all in all, it's a business. But the fact of the matter is that I don't do this to make money. I do this because I enjoy talking sports and I enjoy having a voice out there. My day job is what makes me money.
We both
And
got
so
day
do you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both got
Well, look at it this way. Rudy J owns a company. Minix is a sales guy. Ryan Eagle is a realtor. You go down the line. Sports talk radio is only a fraction of what we do.
Yeah.
Chris
look at
Gonzalez
that.
says, in 10 years, we will not need radio to listen to sports talk. YouTube and podcasts is the new avenue. Think about it this way, Joe. You and I have been talking for 60 minutes, right? There's more content that you and I have done in 60 minutes than you could do in 2 hours on a radio show.
Yeah.
'Cause on a radio show, you have to go
Ads.
headlines of blah, 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 and let's talk about kielbasa smoked meat sausage. Jesse Alvarado, the Pat McAfee effect. All the talking heads have YouTube channels and are popping up content, building their brand beyond the networks. Pat McAfee is bigger than ESPN. He is. Ruben Espinosa, hearing Rome on the radio is so painful.
It is, bro.
I mean,
it's horrible.
And at some point, we're all going to age out of this.
Yeah.
I think Mike Taylor is right when he says that there needs to be a younger wave. And the question becomes, who ushers in that younger wave? Is it going to be a person like me and Taylor and Rudy J and you, Joe, or LG? Or is it going to be somebody who is going to go through I went to radio, television, and film school over at Texas State University, and I went to this small market radio station. It came up, dude, I never did radio. I won a freaking contest and became one of the highest ranked rated shows in San Antonio and South Texas. I won a freaking contest. This is not rocket science. It really isn't.
Maybe the younger generation that picks up the helm would be like your Rudy Campos Juniors, your Carolina Teagues, people who have already gone through the podcasting and radio scene and, start to really come on and make a name for themselves as far as their brand goes,
Right. But I think that if we work together and we pump each other up, it's going to be better than us fighting a battle by ourselves because we don't have the pocketbooks that a San Antonio Sports Star or a Ticket 760 may or may not have. But what we do have is the ability to be functional at a lower price point, to advertise, for example, on our show might be a few $100 a month, $500 a month or so to advertise. You go try to sponsor San Antonio Sports Star, it's like starts at $4 or $5 grand a month.
Yeah.
And then they try to add on to it. If we can build a following, and this is the people who are listening right now, we need you to like and subscribe. We need you to tell other people about this because the number of people I come across, they go, dude, I miss your old show. I'm like, hey, man, I have my podcast. They don't know. This needs to be shared on Facebook. This needs to be shared on Twitter. This needs to be shared on Instagram. You and I need to have a bigger presence on Twitter. I'm not Twitter, on TikTok. There needs to be a little bit more going on. And now we have listeners coming on. When we see the YouTube stats, we have a listener in Holland.
Yeah.
And then we have one we have some that are in the Philippines, some that are in Korea.
Chihuahua, Mexico.
I think people think that the people who are on our stream, and as much as we love you on our stream and all the content that you help steer us into, it's only a fraction of the people who listen to us.
Yeah.
And, but man, good things ahead. This has been a fun show. Joe, I hope you feel better, dude.
Thanks.
I hope you feel better. Get some rest. I feel like trash right now.
I do too, man. But that's dealing with COVID, man. I'm glad at least I have a vaccination. So I just have mild symptoms, but either way, it still feel like crap,
Ace says that he's back to the podcast after a few months. Hey, man, I'm back also, baby.
Stay
My
wicked.
personal life was wrecked last year, and now I'm back, and Like I said, the dedication of it all is, I brought my podcasting gear to California because I
Yeah.
told people that we would be doing this on the daily. Now I won't be able to do it tomorrow,
Yeah.
but the following day I'm back.
Yeah.
So that's basically it. We talked about the Cowboys. The Cowboys wet the bed yet again. I think that heads are going to roll. I think
So
someone's going to get fired by the end of the week.
it'd probably be McCarthy. I think Jerry's going to run with Dak.
That's crazy, but they already have Trey Lance on there. Just give the ball to Lance, see what he's got. I think that the Texans might surprise on Saturday.
Maybe.
That is an interesting team, man. That's a young team. They believe, and I'll tell you what I love about the Texans. You see certain plays happen, and the fastest person on the screen is D'Amico Ryans running down the sidelines to congratulate a player, running down the sidelines to make a call or argue with an official. He is such a breath of fresh air when it comes to coaching.
Yeah.
I'm super excited about that. I'm super excited about Baker Mayfield. Can you imagine Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff? One of them is going to be in the NFC Championship game. That's so much fun. The question about Patrick Mahomes: are the Chiefs good enough to overcome their deficiencies to make it to the AFC Championship again, or is Buffalo going to finally exercise their demons? That's an interesting talking point. Jason Kelce, Eagles center, one of the greatest centers of all time, announced his retirement, or at least he told his teammates this last night.
Yeah.
You saw him walk off the field after Tampa beat Philadelphia. Jason Kelce was emotional, crying. His beautiful wife, Kylie Kelce, was there with him in the stands, cheering him on, and they hugged after the game. That guy is going to make the Hall of Fame. What if, Joe, Jason Kelce retires and we see Travis Kelce retire too?
I think Travis still got some tread on the tire there, especially with Taylor.
He's got tread, but man, he could make more money in entertainment.
He could. He's made a name for himself, no doubt. Oh, and look,
speaking of making a name for themselves, can I mention somebody?
Sure.
Shannon Sharp and Club Shay Shay.
Oh man, his podcast or his live stream went off, bro.
Dude, I mean, with the whole Cat Williams thing, but beyond that, Ocho Cinco doing his commentary along the way. That's the wave, man. That is the wave, and I love Shay Shay, dude. I'm not a big fan of him on TV, but on the podcasting format, man, he shines, dude.
He's
he
great.
Is so good.
Yep,
so good.
And he has great guests. I like this comment here from Chris Bettis. He says, "What's the best advice y'all could give if y'all had one looking to start? In other words, if you're wanting to make a name for yourself in the podcast realm, I guess, or even radio."
Reach out to someone radio. Doing it already.
Yeah, I did a little bit of radio back in the day with Chris Duell and Carolina T. Gylan Jackson doing Spurs React. And the way that the way that all of us got on there is we just called in. So if you call in to your favorite radio show or radio shows and you just have good takes, you're not being out there to be funny, but you go out there and you give a serious take, you are consistent with it. The radio show hosts, sometimes they're like, hey, this guy keeps calling in. I like what he has to say. Maybe we can have him on as a guest, more consistently. And that's how it happens, man. And the other thing is you're trying to get into the podcast realm. The best advice I can give anyone, don't be scared. Just get in front of the camera, get a microphone, and just talk. That's the best thing that you can do. Don't be afraid.
You will find your voice at some point. It's funny because before the podcast started this morning, I'm feeling under the weather. I want to thank Chris Gonzalez reaching out saying, get the Vicks out for Mike and Joe.
The egg.
Put the egg underneath the bed. Get me some Vicks on my feet and put on the socks.
Yeah.
What I find is funny is that I didn't prepare for this show very much, other than I watched sports over the weekend.
Yeah.
It used to be where, and Rudy J would tell me this. He would tell me this early on in my career, that I was over-prepared. And sometimes you have to realize that you're not giving a dissertation. You're not giving a convention speech. You're talking sports.
Yep.
Just talk. Be comfortable with what you're saying. Don't fake what you're saying because people will see when something's contrived. And I hated that about sports talk radio. As some things are contrived, where it's like you take this side of the story and I'll take that side of the story. I never did any of that shit.
Yeah.
I never did because I don't like contrived radio because you can see it, you can feel it, you can hear it.
Yeah. When the host is
But
being fake, they're trying to bullshit their way through something.
yeah, but reach out to me, reach out to Joe, reach out to Taylor, reach out to Rudy J. We're not gonna bite. We're all nice guys, you know.
Hey man, reach out to DJLG. He's a good guy too, man. He
Yeah,
does
I need to meet him, man. I've met. You know what? I did meet him, but it was like very very brief in passing. It was at Finnegan's, I think is the name of the place
Yeah.
that sponsors their show.
He's a good guy, man.
Yeah, they're all good people, man. They're all good people. But anyway, man, I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna go lay down, dude. I am beat.
Me too. I gotta submit some paperwork to work. I gotta give him my work excuse here. Get it over to the HR lady.
And if I'm sick, give me the name of that girl at the urgent care.
Jeez, I think her name is Jessica, dude. Smoking hot, bro.
All right, man. I'll be sure to take a 1099. Anyway, my man. I feel like garbage. It's time for me to go. Live from Los Angeles, California, La Habra Heights. My name is Mike Jimenez. Joe Garcia. Hope you feel better. Everyone have a great day. Stay safe. I know it's cold. Bring the pets inside. Believe it or not, my dogs are inside. Except for the husky, who apparently likes it outside in the cold.
Yeah.
But everyone have a great day, and we'll see you guys back here tomorrow.
Yeah. See you later, fellas.